That, and with all that's happening on the Hill in the battle for the next Speaker of the House, the analysis of what's actually taking place has been wide-ranging. One of the first members of Congress to come out and oppose Kevin McCarthy's bid for Speaker was Virginia Congressman Bob Good. The congressman has been a no vote for McCarthy since the beginning and since the voting began yesterday, and we have Congressman Good on with us to discuss. Congressman Bob Good, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Congressman, really an unprecedented situation in modern times, at least on the Hill. Some are calling it chaotic. Some say it's a sign of healthy democracy, since democracy is meant to be messy after all. You're in the midst of it all. Is it chaotic, or is there actually some order?
You know, Steve, what we've done is we have essentially just delayed the Speaker vote. We've had 3 votes to decide what's a very important decision. I've said often we shouldn't be in a hurry to make a bad decision. It's what a constitutional republic should operate as, representative democracy, where we're doing what our voters sent us to Washington to do, to fight for them, to fight for the country, to do what we think is best, and then to report back to them and be held accountable to the voters who sent us to Washington to fight against the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer agenda.
Congressman, it appears that there's a lot of pivoting, there's a lot of spin coming from all different directions, left and right. If you could clarify for us, what is this all about? What would it take, or is there anything that it would take for you and your colleagues to yes vote McCarthy for Speaker?
Well, I'll just say to the last part of that, we need to move past Kevin McCarthy. He doesn't have the votes. He's not going to have the votes. He's got some 20 or so that are hard-nosed against him. And really, we need the conference to come together and consider what other candidates they think should be considered, who those should be. He's part of the problem. He's not part of the solution. Past history is the best indicator of what future performance will be. He has contributed to how we got to $32 trillion in national debt. He has contributed to the fact that Congress has a 20% approval rating. 80% of the country thinks we're on the wrong track. We can't do what we've always done and expect we're going to get a different result. The American people want change in Washington. They recognize that the Republicans have a better message than the Democrats. They gave us control. And, you know, I've had hundreds of voters in my district beg and plead with me over the last few years not to support Kevin McCarthy. Members all across the country, Republican members, are hearing that. They want someone like a Jim Jordan, someone like a Byron Donalds. Those were the 2 who've gotten votes so far from the Republican members who voted against Kevin McCarthy. So we need to stay the course. Kevin McCarthy needs to drop out. He needs to do what's best for the country, what's best for the Congress, what's best for the Republican conference. It's not about ambition or pride or selfishness. There's not just one person who can be the Speaker. We need to have a true contest to see who that best person is that can get us to 218 and lead the fight to save the country.
Congressman, before I let you go, you have former President Trump weighing in on Truth Social, saying in part, it's now time for our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin McCarthy. You went on to say McCarthy will do a good job, maybe even a great job. What's your reaction to the former president's statement?
I would challenge anyone to tell me what from Kevin McCarthy's past history would tell you that he is the right person to fight with the House majority behind him to stop the Biden-Schumer agenda. What about him would indicate he's willing to go to the mat, to defund the government tyranny that we campaign against, to use the upcoming debt ceiling to leverage true spending cuts, to leverage to get a secure border, to leverage ending the vaccine mandates, to leverage against the weaponization of the federal government against its citizens, to leverage against the war on American reliable energy, the fossil fuel industries, the surrendering of American energy independence. What would tell you that Kevin McCarthy is the person to fight for that? When he was majority leader, when Republicans last controlled the House, every single major spending bill that he negotiated, that he helped pass, was done with a majority of Democrat votes and a minority of Republican votes. What would tell you that Kevin McCarthy is the right person to be Speaker? What from his past history would indicate that? I've not had anybody defend Kevin McCarthy to me, not one member of the media, not one member of the Republican conference tell me that based on the merits of his leadership skills, his willingness to fight, his willingness to battle, his demonstrated toughness. Quite frankly, Steve, we saw yesterday morning in the Republican conference an anger and an intensity and a toughness directed at Republicans in the meeting who weren't supporting him as Speaker that we've never seen directed against Democrats who are ruining the country. If we had seen that kind of fight over the last 2 years in my first term in Congress, or over the past 12 years that he's been in leadership directed at Democrats and the policies that are ruining the country, he wouldn't be in the situation he is in today, where he cannot get the votes, he will not get the votes, and we will drag this out as long as we need to. It's worth spending a few days or even a couple of weeks to get a speaker that we're going to have to live with, and the country cannot afford someone like Kevin McCarthy as speaker, and we're determined not to let that happen for the good of the country.
Virginia Congressman Bob Good from Capitol Hill, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.